Hello everyone, welcome to Music Makes Sense, the podcast that talks about why music is easy and why life is hard. Today, our guest is a Dawson Creek boy. He is probably the smartest musician I've ever interacted with, and he is here today. Everyone, please welcome... What inspired you to kind of take up Carl Glacier rather than Wyatt Laprarie?
Yeah. I think it was definitely a combo of, I want to keep this anonymous, but there has to be a bit of an honesty to it. Mm-hmm. It is me performing and writing all the music, so yeah, it's been more of a exploration and psychology, really.
Absolutely. I mean, it's if you can I don't know how much slurp. I don't know much about shadow work or even what that means, but what you just said kind of invokes something of that nature of if you can put on more of a character, then that you can be a little more free and detach your ego from your art.
Yeah, it's even embracing my ego too. Carl Glacier's been if I were to personify the dude, he's just a nut job. It's really playing shows and stuff. I don't know who that is, and not in a creepy way, but it's just I'm I don't know how I am able to make these jokes. I'm a pretty reserved person, and I'm even shocking my bandmates. It's not super edgy, but they're just that was really funny. You never, you're not.
Who is this person?
Yeah, who is that? It was just your banter is incredible, and I'm just I think it's just that disconnect of because I have a performance degree from school, and so much of that was putting on different hats. And
what kind of teaching goes in? What do you learn from being in a performance school? Because in an art school, I can imagine you're learning theory, you're learning technique, and in a performing school, what's the technique in that?
Well,
not to derail your...
Oh yeah, no worries. It's there's definitely there's some sort of effect taken on your subconscious when you're learning hundreds of musical figures, and genre and context, and you're working with different personalities, and you're trying to get along you're speaking different languages all the time with people you don't even know, and you have to come to agreement on pretty elusive things like pocket.
Already that's given me a little bit of anxiety.
Yeah, it's you have to agree on we only have terms to define it, but what is pocket? We're all sinking into this thing. It's not necessarily something you can just write out in real time. Here's the pocket, guys. It's this is just this subconscious or almost telepathic agreement. So to me, music's always been an intense development of the subconscious. And the only way to really kind of communicate with it, because it's I don't know, you go to improvise something. Well, what part of you knows exactly how to do that? To me, that's always been such a weird thing. I was just even when I was 16 playing along to, some of my favorite records.
I was drop them out. Come on. Drop them out. What are some of your favorite records when you were 16?
I would probably play to Led Zeppelin 2 a lot. And then I remember right before jazz school, I would listen to Autumn Leaves. And I think it was a Steve Gadd recording with I can't remember who the saxophone player was, but it was the first time I heard these gnarly triplet figures. And then I remember just being able to pick it up. And, at the time I didn't think anything of it. But thinking back, I'm how do you what is going on in my head that's like, oh yeah, okay, that's this, like I'm able to, that part of music has always been like, well, this is just the subconscious, arranging stuff and then wiring your brain. I remember like actually rolling around in bed like the first 2 months of school because I was learning how to read, I was learning proper technique, I was learning theory, and I was communicating with people who had similar interests for the first time. And like, again, in like a big community, like a whole university of music students.
A sea of people.
Yeah. So it was like, that I remember like rolling around in bed, like half asleep, half awake, like seeing rhythms and like,
yes,
kind of tapping
and
like just like, it's like, I felt like after that, it was like, Spider-Man getting bit or whatever. He wakes up, he's like, oh, I can climb walls now.
Do you think it's a nature-nurture thing? Like, do you think you're born like that? Or do you think being young enough, impressionable enough, with enough drive to be listening to, like, 'cause Autumn Leaves, Steve Gadd, that's a completely different vibe than, Zeppelin 2.
Yeah.
But also in the same realm, though, it's all rooted in the same kind of thing.
Yeah, like kind of like you're saying, is it a priori like built into the person?
Yeah, yes. Or is it enough
like
indoctrination through listening to enough of that kind of music? Do you kind of get it? Because like I've taught some kids, and I do kind of feel like some kids pick it up way faster than others. Some kids just kind of have that pattern recognition inside of them. And I wonder, like, what kind of network is that? And is there, like, a different kinds of fabric for different kinds of brains, and do different genres of music kind of cater to different styles?
I mean, it's a really difficult question because, like, I think people... It's, like, I think we're getting into a realm of like belief and like and like spirituality a little bit.
Absolutely, yeah.
Because like I mean, yeah, you can teach someone everything, but like I think to when I was sitting in class, like math class or something, when I was a little kid, like you would have to physically like write that into my head for me to be interested in it.
Absolutely, yeah.
And then when it came to music, it's this weird thing of like, it just felt like kind of there. Like it was just there. Like, and I grew up in a household where, my dad had guitars laying around and it's not even like I made a conscious effort to ever learn an instrument. Like I was just playing on them. And it's like, I think it has a lot to do with interest. And then I think you meet guys who, I practice 6 hours a day. But I think that's like a path. It's become like pathological practice where they're like, I'm stuck in maintenance hell. I need to maintain my vocabulary. I need to maintain my jazz chops. If I can't play, giant steps in all 12 keys at 300 BPM, my life is over. Like
I'm not worthy as a human being.
Yeah, and it's like I got stuck in maintenance hell in school. Like, and I was like, and in my third year, I hit such a bad burnout because I went to Finland to study abroad, and I don't know what they're, feeding Finnish people or what they're doing when they're kids, but everyone was like absurdly amazing at music at the music school, and the practice rooms were like empty. Like they were like living, and they were playing music together, and they were going to jams and everything. Where, in contrast, back at my school, it was like people were in the wangers at all times, 4+ hours at least.
It's almost like militaric.
Yeah, and I was like, Finnish people, like, or the Finnish musicians, they just sounded better. They sounded more comfortable. They were way more dialed in, and it was just strange to me that I was trying to wrap my head around this same problem. I'm like, is it just an interest thing, or is it like, can you actually become amazing just by sheer brute force
determination,
practicing 8 hours a day. Because I think like you can get obsessed with routine, and you think that's your new validation point. And then the argument's kind of, I think that's where the argument becomes spiritual, because it's like, you know, was Robert Plant singing 12 hours a day and learning all these fugues on piano, and was he doing ear training, and was he going through all the, Louis Bellson books? And it's like, no, I doubt he can read music. Can he read music? I have no idea. So it's like, but you look at his success, and like, you can't teach that level of, genius when it comes to coming up with, like, he came up with the melodies to Led Zeppelin songs. That's insane. Like, that's, you can't practice your way there. That's just in you. So the argument, I don't know, it's something I've been struggling with a lot after music school, because I'm like, I could go down this path of maintenance hell forever, working on my double stroke roll and going through all the keys, or I can just like go back to play, which has its own like, shortcomings, because you can get really sloppy and like not, like, discipline's important. Discipline is important to an extent, but you need to learn how to let go. And then you can't let go all the way where you're becoming an egomaniac and you're not listening to other people playing, and you're becoming a
free spirit, man. I'm just here to, I'm vibing.
Yeah, and it's like a, that's why I'm like, this is a spiritual problem. Like, this isn't a, you can't brute force your way to the top by practicing, and you can't be a guy having a mental breakdown going like, oh man, I'm the second coming, like I'm the greatest musician of all time, I have so much to offer. And because I think both are like two sides of the same coin of like this deep denial that you don't really enjoy music anymore.
Yeah. Because if you did enjoy music, you'd just be doing it. You wouldn't be thinking about all these things.
Like that's something I've been really struggling with. It's like, I've been trying so hard to let go. Like, I've been trying very hard to let go. And again, it's almost embarrassing looking at my trajectory of developing skills, because I'm like, okay, I was a drummer, animator, guitarist, bass player, singer, piano, got super into synths and modular synths, and like the whole time I'm like, no, this is all helpful. They're all pouring into each other and cascading, and I'm going to become, this is how I'm going to be unique. But then, it's like I'm in that realm of not really scratching the surface of anything, and I'm not specializing, and it just felt like a deep, after a while, it felt like a deep procrastination, where I was,
wow. I had a conversation with a friend about that literally today. About it seems like you just released another EP, and you're just working on another EP right after the one you just released. Are you maybe using that as a little bit of a crutch to not face the music and go out and play the music and really find an audience and build that thing? Because part of the big argument was where do you find your audience? On the internet, through social media, through that way, or through out connecting with people, playing the gigs? Because I'm sure you've experienced a lot. It's a lot of work to go out and play the gigs. It's a lot.
And it's like, I don't know, I used to have like, my philosophy on it has changed a lot, because I was just like, maybe I can get the same product and dedication if I just pay my musicians fairly, like we're getting paid for this gig. Because it was like, before, and I never felt good about it, but like going out, all my friends are learning my music, and then we go play a show and we get $20, and they're like, man, I'm just happy to play. I'm like, that's great, but I'm not doing that anymore. Like it got to a point where I was like, I think if I pay them fairly out of pocket, that's going to like, I don't know. I think it all comes down to hope, right? We're all putting out music. We're all playing music because we're hoping something's going to come of it. And then, as much as I don't love the music industry, I'm happy that there is some sort of financial incentive involved which can like work past a lot of unnecessary drama as well. Because like, I know people who have collaborative projects, and that can turn into a nightmare very quickly. And what I like about the financial aspect of it is like I don't have to involve my bandmates in a way that like will affect them emotionally. They don't have to be emotionally attached the way I would if this stuff doesn't work out. And
Absolutely.
like, so yeah, I think I've definitely changed a lot of my idea on like performance, and it's back to fun again, because it's just kind of like we do one rehearsal, we play the show, and they're all professionals and they're amazing. So,
and it's such a privilege to be at that level where you can just trust people to like, hey, we're going to be in the room for 2 hours. Got it, guys. We got it. And that also inspires like a liveliness and thing in the room of like you're not beating a dead horse.
Yeah, for sure. And I don't know. We're all improvisers too. And like that's the kind of viciousness I do welcome in my project, because it's like it can be so brutal in so many ways, but it's like that was something I really loved about jazz, was like we're all about to go. We're all going on this journey together, and we're playing my song still, but there's still an element of like, I'm not gonna throw you under the bus for letting loose. Like we're not on a click track right now.
We're not James Brown $5 every time you miss a hit.
Yeah, no, it's like I never really believed in that. Like, why are you hiring musicians in the first place if you need it to be perfect?
Yeah.
And you can't have too many transients and your velocities aren't perfect. And
it's 2024. You can click. Yeah, you can backing track that if you want that.
Yeah, and I was just like, why am I even playing music if I'm just here to? I don't know. It's like I feel like I've met so many aliens in the music scene, because they're just like so different, like so pragmatic, and they need things to be so particular, and like I don't know, I definitely warmed up a lot more to people who were just like, yeah, but did you have fun? Like
yeah. How was the gig? Like
I'd way rather be like cheersing a guy before we go on stage than a guy running through his sheet music like, well, we gotta remember this figure. And like again, music does get that complicated, where yes, I completely understand that, but like I don't know. It took me a long time to realize, like, what I appreciate is just, like, me and my friends are going to go do this bazaar. We're going to go involve ourselves in this medium that is, like, ultimately absurd. Like, music is so absurd to me. And I, like...
Why is it absurd to you?
I don't... Like, it's just, like... I found I had this disconnect when I started doing, like, visual art. Where visual art is, like... It's like a thing you can physically see, where music is something you feel.
So, like an example, like if like a shot's bad, like something like that, or
sorry,
like if like a camera shot, like if like a bad photo is a bad photo, like if the exposure's messed up, if the composition's just not good, is that what you're meaning, or do you more mean like it's more universal?
Just the way it's like, just the way it is perceived. Like visual is like that camera there is physical. I can see it. I can put it in a category. I can go black camera, okay, stand, 3 legs, like all this stuff. But with music, it's like something happening within you that is indescribable. And to me, that's an absurd thing, because it is such a surreal experience, but everyone gets it. It's like it's like an unspoken language. And again, it's like back to this spirituality, like a priori thing. It's like, why do I like this genre of music? Why is this speaking to me? Why does this make me cringe? Why does that, like, it's, and you can get down to like being rational about it. It's firing off dopamine, and your neurotransmitters are going crazy when you listen to Sum 41.
And you grew up in this time in this culture, so that means you're more likely to like these kind of beats. And
yeah, 100%. But there's still that, to me, it's absurd, and like, it's just I can't find a framework that'll ever fit it together for me, because it's ultimately chaotic to me. It's chaos. Like, it's hard to understand how, you know, it's hard to get human beings to agree on anything.
Yeah.
But you can get 4 grown men in a room and enjoy each other's company by banging on skins and tubs and strings and all that. Like,
it's a different kind of work, because I think a lot of people, they can feel camaraderie by like being in any kind of community and doing any kind of collective work. But you know, building a house with someone, it doesn't feel the same way as being in, you know, jam and letting loose, and you know, the crowd is on their toes, you're on your toes, you don't know what's going to happen next. Like, that's a different thing.
Yeah, yeah, I don't know if absurd is the word, but it's just I think that's why I do it. It's just constantly interesting to me. And yeah, again, to me, it's this thing of a subconscious, and like, I have faith in the subconscious, and I want that to exist, because a lot of things don't make sense, you know, like why I feel a certain way doesn't make sense. But if I can find a song that helps me understand why I'm feeling that way, then it's like, okay, I actually have a part of myself that knows more than I do, but it won't communicate to me, you know, unless there's all these frequencies going on in sync or out of sync, or, you know, so it's, to me, yeah, it's a very absurd thing, but like, that's why it's interesting to me, because it's like a weird communication device with yourself. Like, you're able to pull out experience that you're not even necessarily aware that you had absorbed. And like, that's what this record really was. Like, I'm not a raging alcoholic.
Yeah.
I'm not struggling with faith, and I'm not like, well, I am struggling with faith. I guess I
think everyone is.
Yeah, there's some truth to the songs, but they're not like, you know, it's not me drawing upon experience, but it's like drawing upon metaphor.
Absolutely.
And
well, isn't that what most art? It's all metaphor.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not. You know, the sun isn't actually falling because you're not with me. It's, you know, it's just how it makes me feel.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think that answers your question, maybe inadvertently, whatever the question was. I
don't know. I'm just having a good time talking.
Yeah.
It's so fascinating, like, talking to you, because I feel like you've moved. Like, I'm kind of in a place in my music career where I haven't played enough shows and done enough touring and done enough life to know if that's what I want to do.
Yeah.
And I'm really scared that I'm going to live this life and I'm going to be 35, 40 and be like, oops.
Yeah.
And hearing, you know, like, your take on, like, are you having fun? Like,
yeah.
Are you having fun? Like, are you enjoying what you're doing? It brings it way, like, back down to earth of like, why am I doing this? I'm similar. I didn't wake up one day and said, I'm going to be a rock star. I'm going to be a musician. It was just always around, and it was always just kind of being absorbed. And I just kind of so happened to, you know, realize I'm pretty good at this. So let's see what I can do with it.
Yeah, no, 100%. And, you know, I'm almost 30, so it's been a rude awakening. But it's hilarious to me, because Carl Glacier has always been my answer to that problem. It's like, well, I need a character that can handle the music industry, that can handle being on social media, that can handle all this stuff. Because to me, I love making music. I can make it by myself. I can make it with people. I can put it down. I can pick it up. It's just, it never mattered to me in the way making it a viable career matter to you. If
Yes,
I said that properly.
Absolutely. And me being in my early 20s, that's like insane to me. but your perspective seems so much more at peace.
Yeah, you just have, like, again, it always boils back to like existential dread, really, because it's, I mean, everything's gonna get taken from you. Everything ends, and no one has a pristine trial through this life. So, I mean, you can have dreams, you can have all that stuff, but like if it starts distracting away from the fact that you just enjoy doing it, to me, I think that's where a lot of people get lost. And like, that's a terrifying reality, because I've seen people get lost, you know, and I've been lost. And, you know, I see people in a position where I'm like, you're going to get lost. Like, you're not doing this because you like doing it anymore, or you're not even considering why you started in the first place, which is like, I don't know, it sounds like we have a similar experience with it, but it's just like, I don't know, it's just there.
Yeah.
You know? Why am I taking pictures of my breakfast? You know, like I'm like, wait. There's been so many times where I'm like posting stuff that has nothing to do with music, and it has nothing to do with what I care about, and I'm like, oh well, this is hilarious. You know, it's ironic because I am now suffering my own joke, which is Carl Glacier, this influencer on Instagram. Like, it's not me, and now I'm actually becoming this character. I'm becoming my own criticism, and it's ironic to me, right? Because I'm like, oh yeah, this is why I started this. I was trying to criticize what social media does to people, and here I am, like, whoa, you know, like it's been absurd, honestly. Like
that. On a personal level, that kind of sounds like what The Simpsons did to society. They started satire, everything, but then people just started kind of leaning into the satire, and all of a sudden now it's just reality. And I mean, that's a tale of like that just seems like the art industry in the in a nutshell. Of you start a thing because you start it, and then you start it because you have either you want to protest something or you love it, and then all of a sudden you get so lost in it and you realize, like, oh wait, I have all these people around me, but I don't even know who they are.
Yeah,
I'm doing all this stuff, but I don't even know what I'm doing. I'm taking pictures of my breakfast, but like, I don't even care. Yeah,
no, it's like, not to criticize people who do that, but I just like, me personally, I was just like, it's one of those, jarring moments where you're like, I thought I was self-aware, but I'm really not, in a way.
That's a big, it's also a big anxiety of mine.
It's like, you know what, I'm gonna start this band as an alter ego, and I'm gonna do all these things, and I'm gonna make all these criticisms, and it's like, whoa, I've been projecting for like 20 years.
So what do you, how do you balance the idea that you're exploring all these different mediums, like graphic design and art, and like the visual and the auditorial and everything? Because earlier you said, in a way, you felt like you were procrastinating something bigger, but yet, what are you procrastinating if the end goal is just to enjoy it?
Yeah. I think.
Not to, sorry, not to like.
No, for sure. I think, like, I'm usually struck by like one-liners.
Okay.
Like, I have like intrusive thoughts that I turn into song titles. And one of the song titles was, "You got to paint a picture before it paints itself."
Okay.
And I think we're all what's it called? I think it's another existential, or it's like the human condition where if you don't do something about your life, it's going to take a form on its own. And to me, I recognize what I was doing as procrastinating, because I'm getting further and further away from what I think is a great life. And to me, a great life, ironically is impossible to make. I can't be an amazing animator and an amazing guitar player and a perfect drummer and a great singer and all these things. So to me, the picture is painting itself, and I'm like becoming a jack of all trades, master of none. I'm kind of, I'm becoming disenchanted with what I'm doing. I don't, there's this weird, like, everybody wants a life either to stay the same, the way they like it, or to be better. Mm-hmm. And, like, there's the fear of, procrastination's like, I'm going to miss out on an opportunity. I'm sitting here doing nothing about this opportunity. So to me, that's why I saw it as procrastination. But, like, I don't know, your 20s, it is just trial by fire. Mm-hmm. And, like, I applaud anybody who gets through their 20s. I did not like my 20s, like, at all. Like, and it's weird that I say that because I had a really great life. I have a great life. I'm very lucky. I'm so lucky to make art and to grow up where I grew up. And, it's not like I'm ungrateful, but it's just like my 20s were such a show, in my opinion, just trying to, date and figure out what I wanted to do with my life and, where do I want to live and do I want this kind of education? Not for 1 second was I not improvising. Like, I was like, I did not have any plans. I did not think about my future at all. I was, involved with people who, in retrospect, I really wish I did not associate with. And yeah, it came to a conclusion of like, well, there's definitely something to discipline, and there's definitely something to pragmaticism and being methodical and planning. But there's a way to do it, I feel, that needs to be kind of reckless as well. Mm-hmm. And that's why I was kind of like, yeah, this picture is painting itself, and it's scaring me because, like, I think everyone lives with a bit of regret, or
I mean, it's human condition.
yeah.
If you don't, I think you're a psychopath.
Yeah. So it's again, on paper, my 20s were great, amazing, but yeah, I don't know. I think that's a relatively universal experience. Like, I wish I could go back, and I don't know too. I genuinely feel bad for not just our generation, but just everyone, like, with the new godlike tech on the horizon. And I don't know, just this hyper connectivity. Like, when can you get a breather from anything anymore? And ignorance is bliss. That's so true.
Yeah.
And it's never been more true, because it's like, I don't know, how are you supposed to have this, like, godlike concern for everything happening
all the time, with people that you don't even know.
Yeah, and it's just like, I don't know, it's crazy thinking, I'll be on my deathbed one day and I was a guinea pig for social media. Like, that's like, that's so crazy to me. Like that's probably like, I'm trying to think of another time in history where something that
not I mean, the only thing I can think of is like health-wise, asbestos and lead. Like, not really knowing, like, oh, hey, if you suck your brain of dopamine for 8 hours a day, that's probably not the best thing to do.
Yeah, totally.
Don't breathe in a bunch of asbestos.
Yeah. Just like thinking of this kind of revolution that just like impacted everybody to such an extent. And again, I'm not. I love being alive during these times.
Oh, this is, again, like, we were in an air-conditioned room with, technology all around us, having a conversation about how, tough doing art is.
Yeah, I think... yeah, no kidding. I think just, like, looking back, like, that's crazy to be around when Facebook was around, or the Wild West of the internet, like, not any regulation.
Not even being around when Facebook was around, but being around when there's movies idolizing Facebook.
Yeah.
And like, it's almost like our technological overlords are they're the next thing to look up to. We have the Westerns and the space movies and the crime thrillers, and now it's
Silicon Valley.
Yeah. The BlackBerry movie just came out.
Yeah.
How many Steve Jobs movies have there been? You know, people love these. People love an idol, and maybe the idol is AI.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know who said it, but they were talking about humanity's only purpose was to create AI.
I've heard that theory before.
And it's like AI's it's crazy to think we're living in the time of, like, you know, you have Nietzsche saying we killed God, and what are we going to do? And, you know, we killed higher value, and now it's like, yeah, we made God.
We created it.
We just made God.
Again, stealing more from social media. I seen a post that talked about how the first art of humans were hand paintings, hand murals on the wall.
Yeah.
You know, just handprints, and how AI, they just can't get fingers right. And there's some metaphor there of, you know, no matter how hard AI will try, they'll never be able to replicate the thing that's just inside of us, like the groove. Like it's, you know, like it'll be interesting to see, like, if we can really mathematically define what groove is.
Yeah. And then there's always the one guy who's like, well, you can't do it yet. Like that's just the argument, and I think that's the general terror behind the thing. It's like a billion ways for AI to go wrong, a million ways for it to go right.
I don't know. It's I think it's what you said though. Like it's faith, it's hope, it's you know, everyone loves a good movie, and in my world, my favorite movies are underdog movies. So I think it's gonna get really bad, but then in the end, we're gonna be sitting around the fire, ooga chaka again, and then it's just gonna happen again.
Yeah. Just nauseating thinking of all the choice you have. And like, I've really become someone who's just focused on, like, what can I tolerate? And I was like, you know what, it's not that bad to work a part-time job and do music for fun. And like, I, you know, when I first got to music school, I'm like, I'm so dead set on this, and this is gonna be exactly what But again, like, if you're fine with having a part-time job, or you're fine with, like, you know, your day job, or, you know, I think a lot of creatives run the risk of becoming self-absorbed. And that is something I've struggled with a lot, because it's like you can get into this headspace of like, what about my dreams, and what about my aspirations, and what about my ideas, and what about my future? Yeah, what about me? And then, you know, I think it takes a lot of that getting beaten out of you. And, you know, you see your parents are older, and you see your siblings are struggling with things. You see your friends are going through stuff, and you're just like, man, you know what, this huge shining, you know, reality of hope, and, you know, just kind of, it's almost in the realm of delusion. It's like, this thing is toxic.
Absolutely.
In a way. And like, to me, you're getting like that dream, you get there two ways. You get there by being incredibly, like I was saying before, incredibly pragmatic and methodical. And that's a different kind of self-absorption, where you're so disciplined, you're so serious. Like, I can't even go to the movies with my family because I got to practice for 20 hours. And then the other delusional path to that is, I'm Jesus Christ. I'm the next big thing.
I just have to walk into a room, and then there you go. It's going to be given to me.
Yeah, and I feel like you can be inadvertently torturing yourself, because you're just like trying to be bigger than you are. And I mean, it's not anyone's fault that it's an industry that requires you to be self-absorbed. You know, it's like, well, I need to practice this much to be competing. I need to act special, because how am I going to stand out amongst all these beautiful influencers with millions of followers? And like,
the capitalist idea of music is to be self-absorbed and egocentric.
Yeah, 100%. And like, again, if that's your bag, man, be my guest. Yeah. But I don't know. Like, again, I have a level of severity to me where I take my work seriously, and I do care about that. But like, I don't know. I really hope that never came across as like well, I think I'm the man. I'm like gonna save the world with my guitar, bro. Like it's like
yeah.
It's like
where are your feet? Zoom out a little bit.
Yeah, 100%. And again, it's something I still struggle with because it's, I don't know, no one's giving anybody the answers. Like,
it's so much fun to believe that we're the main character. And it's so much. It almost and in a way, it protects us from maybe the regrets that we have, because it's like, well, you know what? Maybe I did these things, but I'm the main character. In the end, it's gonna be good.
It's all gonna work out.
It's gonna work out.
Yeah, Kim's gonna marry me. I'm gonna get back with Kim Kardashian. I couldn't agree more. It's just something of, I don't know. It comes back down to like, I don't know why I picked up a guitar, and it's this. It's just a battle with the subconscious, really, because you can become so enthralled in your own path and your own progress. But I don't know, man, like turning 30 in 1 year, I'm just kind of like, wow, what I missed out on in retrospect was like, you know, true vulnerability with people and you know, spending time with my family. And you know, I could have salvaged some really important relationships to me. And even if they did end anyway, they didn't need to end so terribly. You know, like, I think kind of taking on something that requires you to be a brand, you know, it can make you kind of ruthless in a way that, you know, looking back at it, I'm like, yeah, I don't know. Even right now, I'm probably not being pretty hard on myself, but there's a level of like, yeah, this can be pretty difficult ethically, morally, and you know, how do you do what used to be such a communal thing like music? How do you do that the same way, but in a world that requires you to brand yourself, to put your face on everything, to you know, have perfect morals, and you know, it's like, yeah, I don't know. And again, it's not just the plight of musicians. I think everyone is, if you're on social media, you're struggling with like, you know, a level of, do I stay, you know, a human being and you know, connect with others, or do I become this brand who is affiliated with these things and, you know, never done anything wrong in my life, and you know, I'm painting the perfect picture for you to see. And yeah, I think everyone runs the risk of, you know, whether they know it or not, becoming a bit self-absorbed for sure. Yeah. A mission.
Like for the next, like, because you said you were just sprawling everywhere in your 20s. Do you have a little bit more of like a consolidated like path?
Yeah, I think I'm like in a position where I just want to. I want to be okay with letting go, and you know, that is such a terrifying idea to me, because I've like built all this stuff, and I've like, you know, I've created my life in a way. Like, I didn't create my life, but I
know exactly what you mean. I feel what you mean.
Yeah, it's like I built this thing, and I see that it's like it can work, and it could work, but it's like, at what cost? Because I've seen the damage this thing has caused too, and I can look ahead and see the problems it's going to cause me, and
could cause you.
Yeah,
you don't know.
Yeah,
you know, be a little more positive about it. You don't, like, you know, you don't know that, you know, it's all going to be doom and gloom if you know, if you continue.
Yeah, no, it's been. I think it's like see what I've made, and I see that it's capable of making my life better. Mm-hmm. But then I'm also like, can I be okay without it?
That's a really interesting experiment to run.
Yeah, it's like, will I fall apart? And it's kind of like that argument from before, like, are musicians more important than doctors? Mm-hmm. And it's like, am I gonna fall apart if I can't make music? I'm like, I don't know. I'd like to see what I'm made of, because it's like, I don't know, if I was watching, like, I used to love watching South Park, but I haven't watched all 50 seasons, like, it's like, again, it's like, it's all amazing art, and I'm sure there's new episodes that would make me laugh, and I would, I'd be quoting it and whatever, but it comes down to a point where I was like, I just stopped watching that show, and it kept going, and I'm just like, I don't know, I can definitely appreciate, certain bands that stopped at the right time. Like, yeah, I think we all have a band that we used to love, and now they're making like horrible music.
Jerry Seinfeld. I'm dropping Seinfeld. He talks about how Seinfeld, the show, was almost like a weather pattern.
Yeah,
where it starts slow and then it ramps up until it's this big thing, and the game is getting out of that thing before it dies back down.
Yeah,
because no one wants their life to be worse than it was before.
Yeah.
Like what would Seinfeld be if it ran for 20 seasons and everyone got sick of it?
Yeah, and it's kind of like, I don't know. I feel like bands like Led Zeppelin made a great call. Like, they kind of fell apart, but it was more like, it was
an executive decision of like, well, like, kind of a little bit of like what you're kind of describing of like, what are we doing? Like, is this like at what cost?
Yeah, the Beatles too. Like, man, like, what a legacy!
It's awesome that we're equating ourselves to Led Zeppelin and the Beatles.
It's like, but to just like cap it off the way they did, like, it's like, it's when is a piece of work finished? It's like, I think it just hits you when it's done. You're just like, I'm at that point. I'm not saying I'm gonna stop doing Carl Glacier, but like, if someone said, hey man, you gotta get serious, like your family is retiring soon, your parents are too old you need to start helping out, and
what's life is getting in the way.
It's like hey, you don't get to, it's not all about you. If someone said, hey, it's not all about you anymore, I'm at a point where I'm like, okay, I've lived a great life. My musical career was amazing, and I'm like, I'm grateful for it. And
that seems to be like a really common thing of people who go through big shifts in their life. They kind of realize like it just hits them like a brick, and they're just ready to, like, they're just ready, and they realize it's not about me. I think it's very much like, I don't know. I think it's a blessing in disguise too. I think it's like really painful trying to like make your dreams work. I think that's like Absolutely.
A very awful experience for a lot of people.
Someone also famous said, they were asked like, what advice do you give people who want to follow their dreams? And they say, don't do it. And they say don't do it because only the people crazy enough not to listen to them are gonna be able to do it.
100%.
And that's such a I think that's really cool because you gotta find those crazy people, but also it's such a weird thing that this industry only really supports the people who are like, I'm ready to die on the street for this. Yeah,
man. Daniel Johnston, Like a Monkey in the Zoo. That song is like haunting. It's so, like, I could go on and on about Daniel Johnston, but like that, the pain in that song is like, I don't know. That's it. That's like what every artist I know, every creative I know is like. That song is.
I'm not familiar with it. Do you want to enlighten me a little bit?
It's like, he's just talking about like how he just, being in the spotlight is a lot like being a circus animal. Mm-hmm. And like, it's just like, you're kind of deprived of your humanity, and you're just an entertainment device for people. Mm-hmm. And, this is my interpretation of it, but to me, you can just hear the pain behind like being somebody who has been pursuing their dreams, and then, things work out, and then you realize it's like, everyone following their dreams, if things actually come true, it's not going to look a thing like what you thought it was. And I don't know, that song is so haunting to me, because it's like, he was someone who couldn't help but be authentic in the public eye, and he had like, horrific mental health issues, and, the whole world got to see it. Mm-hmm. And, it's like, how society kind of gets a kick out of, watching someone's life fall apart. Like you look at like Britney Spears or something, like the way people treated.
It's a meme. About
like treated her mental breakdown and all that. And I was like, it's crazy to think that this like universal experience of like, famous people, you have Daniel Johnston making the greatest criticism of it. It's like, I feel like I'm in a zoo. Like, I feel like people are throwing food at me, and like, and
dance monkey.
Yeah. And he says it in an interview where there's like a huge audience, and he like looks out. He's like, man, I feel like a monkey in a zoo. And I was like, there's a reason this guy's music hits me so hard, because I don't know, he's my hero for sure. Just like. And again, it's like, it's funny that we were talking about like, people mentioning their mental health and stuff. But like, what's interesting is like, you were actually seeing him go through the challenges of like, severe mental health disorder. But, not once was he ever like, yeah, I struggle with this. It was like, no, this is
the proof
like,
was in the pudding.
Yeah,
you didn't need to tell people, because you just had to just look at what he was producing.
Yeah, you just saw it. Like, his last performances, he's shaking and
maybe.
Oh yeah. Cool. Thanks, man.